There's something just truly magical about growing your own food, right? That feeling of picking a warm tomato right off the vine or snipping fresh herbs for dinner, it's the best. But what if I told you that your plants could do more than just grow side by side? What if they could actually help each other out? Let's dig into the secret social life of your garden. So, I want you to imagine your garden as a lively little community. In this neighborhood, some plants are total best friends. They support each other, protect each other. And then you've got the others, the grumpy neighbors who, well, just don't get along. And figuring out these relationships, that is the real secret to a happy, thriving garden. It's true. Just like people, plants have their own social circles. Some of them form these amazing alliances that help everybody flourish. Others, though, they compete for things like sunlight and water, or they even release chemicals that can hurt their neighbors. Tapping into this secret world can totally transform your harvest. And that brings us to this brilliant and actually really ancient idea called companion planting. It's basically the art of pairing up plants that help each other out. Think of it like being a strategic matchmaker for your garden, creating this cooperative, self-sufficient little ecosystem. And when you get the pairings right, the benefits are just incredible. Good companions can literally act as natural fertilizers, making the soil better for everyone. They can send out an invitation to helpful insects like bees to boost pollination, or even tell nasty pests to stay away. Some plants can even act as a living trellis for others to climb. Plus, by mixing things up, you can fit way more into a tiny space. It's a total win-win-win. But of course, not all plant interactions are so friendly. This is where a sciencey word called allelopathy comes in. It sounds complicated, but it's really just a fascinating and kind of tricky thing where some plants release natural chemicals that can stunt or even kill their neighbors. This is the science behind those garden bullies we were talking about. So really, it all just boils down to knowing who plays well with others and who, prefers to be left alone. And to really get a feel for the power of good companionship, let's take a look back in time at one of the most famous and effective plant partnerships in history. Okay, this is the story of the three sisters. It's this absolutely ingenious agricultural method that was perfected by indigenous peoples all across North America. And it's so much more than just a planting technique. It's a beautiful story of cooperation that sustained communities for centuries.
And it works like this. First, you have the corn. Kind of like the strong older sister. It grows tall and provides a natural pull for the beans to climb up to get sunlight. Then you have the beans, the giving middle sister. They do something incredible. They actually pull nitrogen out of the air and put it into the soil, basically making natural fertilizer for their siblings. And finally, there's the squash, the protective younger sister. It spreads its huge, prickly leaves across the ground like a living mulch, which keeps the soil moist, blocks out weeds, and even keeps pests away. This whole system is so perfectly balanced that the geographer Carl O. Sauer once called it a symbiotic plant complex without an equal elsewhere. The three plants aren't just living near each other, they're actively helping each other create a system that's way more productive than any one of them could be on its own. It's a masterclass from nature for sure. Feeling inspired? Well, the great news is that you can use these same ideas in your own garden no matter how big or small it is. So let's look at some really practical partnerships that you can create, like right now. One of the easiest and prettiest ways to start is by inviting the good guys over. Planting flowers like marigolds or herbs like borage right in with your veggies is like putting out a giant welcome sign for pollinators. More bees and other beneficial insects means way better fruit on your tomatoes, squash, and cucumbers, which all leads to a much bigger harvest for you. And just like the beans in the three sister story, other legumes like peas can work that same nitrogen-fixing magic. Planting them can naturally make your soil richer, meaning you'll need less artificial fertilizer. And if you have a bit more space, some shrubs and trees can do this too. Here's a cool pro tip. When you prune these nitrogen-fixing plants, some of their roots actually die back and release all that good nitrogen into the soil, giving their neighbors a fantastic little nutrient boost. All right, so for every perfect match, there's a combination that just spells trouble. Understanding what not to plant together is honestly just as important as knowing the good pairs. Let's talk about a few of these common garden frenemies you'll want to avoid. So let's look at a few common mismatches. For example, you definitely want to keep your beans and peas away from things like garlic and onions. The allium family, that's onions, garlic, leeks, can release stuff from their roots that actually stops legumes from growing well. Oh, and tomatoes and corn are a really bad mix
because they both attract the same destructive pests. Planting them together is basically setting up an all-you-can-eat buffet for bugs. And here is a super crucial tip, especially for beginners. Some plants, like mint and fennel, are notorious garden bullies. They're so aggressive with their growth and their chemicals that they can just take over and smother everything around them. The simplest solution? Give them their own pot. It keeps the roots contained and keeps the peace in your little garden neighborhood. Okay, is your head spinning a little? Don't worry. The best part about gardening is that you can start small. Let's just break it down into a few simple steps you can take today to get going on your own companion planting journey. First off, a little planning goes a really long way. Just sketch out your pairs before you start digging. And, like we just said, use pots to keep those neighborhood bullies in check. Another good habit is to rotate where you plant things each season. That helps prevent any of those bad chemicals from building up in the soil. But honestly, the most important thing is don't be afraid to experiment. Every garden is unique, and mistakes are just how we learn. And please, please remember this. You do not need a huge backyard to make this work. Companion planting works on a balcony, in a window box, even in a single large pot. You could plant one tomato plant with some basil and a few marigolds all in one container. And that's a perfect little community right there, fighting off pests and even making the tomato taste better. Every single seed you plant is a step toward creating your own tiny, thriving ecosystem. It's a connection to nature, to your own health, and to the simple, real joy of life. So, the only question left is, what are you going to plant today?